What if I told you that the most successful R&B label of the 1990s built its empire on the voices of two artists the world forgot? Damian Dame wasn't just another duo. They were the very first act signed to LaFace Records, the label that would launch TLC, Toni Braxton, and Usher into superstardom. They created the blueprint, recorded the hits, and then vanished not by choice but by tragedy. Their story is one of heartbreak, hidden genius, and a legacy that refuses to stay silent. If you love uncovering hidden legends like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to Legends Underrated, and tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? The year 1991 tasted like possibility. Neon lights painted dance floors in electric blues and pinks. Cassette tapes clicked in word and boom boxes. The air was thick with new jack swing, hip-hop soul, and the promise that music could change everything. While C&C Music Factory and Boys II Men dominated the radio, two unknown artists from opposite ends of America were about to change R&B forever. Their names were Dia and Damian. And before LaFace Records became a household name, before the awards and the platinum plaques, there was only them, a small studio, and a sound nobody had heard before. Dia Dame was born Dia Harriet on September 20th, 1958, in the humid heart of Houston, Texas. But California became her real home, the place where her voice learned to breathe. Her father would later tell anyone who'd listen that even as an infant, she hummed in perfect pitch. It wasn't learned, it was innate, like her heartbeat carried melody. Growing up in San Jose, she fell in love with the voices that made emotion sound effortless: Tina Marie's rawness, Denise Williams' soaring range. She sang in church choirs where her voice didn't overpower, it moved people. There's a difference. By 18, she was touring small California clubs with her sister's band, earning just enough to keep going and dreaming just enough to believe. Then came her break. At 25, Geffen Records saw something in her and offered a deal. Her self-titled album dropped in 1983. Songs like Hug Me, Squeeze Me, and her haunting cover of Prince's I've Got a Broken Heart Again showed range, vulnerability, and a voice that could switch from tender to powerful in a single breath. The album peaked at number 62 on the R&B charts. Not a hit, but not a failure either. It proved she belonged. But the mid-80s were brutal for solo female R&B singers. Labels were chasing the next Madonna, the next Whitney. Competition was ruthless. Dia's deal with Geffen quietly dissolved, and like so many talented artists before her, she slipped into the shadows. But Dia didn't stop singing. She just stopped being seen. Throughout the late 80s, she became one of the most sought-after background vocalists in Los Angeles. She sang on albums for Karen White, Pebbles, and Shalimar. Her voice was everywhere, supporting, elevating, perfecting. And it was during one of these sessions that she reconnected with a young producer named Kenneth "Babyface" Edmonds. He'd invited her to sing background on his 1986 solo album Lovers. He loved her tone, that rare combination of smoke and honey. Their professional relationship grew. She became part of his creative circle, the invisible foundation of late 80s R&B. But there was something restless in her. She'd had her moment in the spotlight once. She wanted it again. 2,000 miles away, in Battle Creek, Michigan, a boy named Damian Dame D was turning household objects into instruments. Born September 13, 1966, he taught himself piano, drums, and guitar before most kids learned to ride a bike. His mother once said he could make music out of anything: a pencil tapping a desk, a spoon hitting a glass, his fingers drumming a table. While other teenagers chased girls in Friday night parties, Damian chased sound. He'd close his eyes when he played, completely lost, somewhere between this world and the one inside the music. By 16, he was performing in small Michigan clubs, not for the attention, but for the feeling. People noticed his quiet intensity, the way he didn't need to be loud to command a room. Eventually, like every dreamer from a small town, Damian moved to Los Angeles, the city of angels and broken promises. He joined a group called Shy Boy, then launched his own production company, Kazoo. He wasn't chasing fame, not really. He was chasing the perfect song, the perfect sound, the moment when all the elements locked into place and became something bigger than music. By the late 80s, he was producing for local artists, getting his name whispered in the right circles. He was good, but he was still searching for something, someone. That someone came in the form of a cassette tape. A mutual friend handed Damian a demo. It was Dame. From the first note, he was captivated. Her voice wasn't just technically perfect, it had weight, it had lived. He reached out immediately. Within weeks, they were in a studio together, experimenting, laughing, discovering. At first, Damian saw himself as the producer, the architect behind Dia's comeback. But Dia heard something else. She encouraged him to step behind the mic. She heard texture in his voice, warmth that balanced her sharpness perfectly. For 3 months straight, they spent nearly every day together. Damian would layer beats while Dia built melodies around them. There was no ego, no competition, just two artists chasing the same ghost. When their demo was finished, they started sending it to labels, rejection after rejection. Then, timing, fate, whatever you want to call it, stepped in. Babyface and Antonio L.A. Reid were forming a new label, LaFace Records, backed by Clive Davis at Arista. They wanted artists who could define a new sound, R&B with street, edge, soul with modern production. When they heard Damian and Dia's demo, everything clicked. For Dia, it felt like redemption, going from singing background for Babyface to becoming one of his first signed artists. For Damian, it was validation. Years of quiet work, of faith, were finally paying off. Two different lives, two different beginnings, one shared destiny. But the world had no idea what was coming. In early 1991, Damian Dame became the first artist officially signed to LaFace Records. Let that sink in. Before TLC's multi-platinum explosion, before Toni Braxton's elegance, before Usher's superstardom, there was Damian Dame. They were the experiment, the risk, the foundation upon which everything else was built. Their debut album, simply titled Damian Dame, dropped later that year. The lead single, Exclusivity, was a masterclass in early 90s R&B. Smooth, sensual, rhythmic, but never predictable, it blended hip-hop beats with soulful harmonies in a way that felt fresh. The chemistry between them was undeniable. Dia's voice soared, Damian's grounded it. Together they created balance. Exclusivity climbed to number 21 on the R&B charts. Not a number one, but strong enough to prove LaFace had made the right choice. The album went on to peak at number 52 on the Billboard R&B Albums chart. Critics praised it. Fans connected with it. Radio stations played it. For a moment, it seemed like Damian Dame were about to become household names. But the music industry is fickle, and tragedy doesn't wait for success to solidify. Stories like these are why I built Legends Underrated, so make sure to subscribe for more untold tales that deserve to be remembered. 1994, just 3 years after their debut, Damian Dame D was driving through Los Angeles when the unthinkable happened. A car accident, sudden, fatal. He was only 27 years old. The news shattered the small but growing community that loved their music. For Dia, the loss was incomprehensible. Damian wasn't just her musical partner, he was her creative soulmate, the person who believed in her when the industry had forgotten her name. She withdrew from music almost immediately. No announcements, no farewell tour, just silence. Friends said she was never the same. The light in her eyes had dimmed. 2 years later, in 1996, Dia Dame passed away. She was only 37. The official cause was listed as natural causes, but those close to her whispered about a broken heart, about grief so heavy it became physical. In just 2 years, both halves of Damian Dame were gone. The duo that was supposed to define LaFace's sound had been erased by fate, and as the label moved forward, signing bigger acts, achieving massive success, Damian Dame's name faded into the background. Not intentionally, not maliciously, just quietly, the way most legacies disappear. But here's the twist. While their names faded, their influence didn't. Every LaFace artist that came after them stood on the foundation Damian Dame built, the blend of hip-hop and soul, the male-female vocal dynamic, the emotional vulnerability wrapped in slick production, TLC's crazy sexy cool, Toni Braxton's elegance, Usher's smooth delivery, all of it carried echoes of what Damian Dame pioneered. Damian's production techniques, his blend of electronic textures and live instrumentation, became part of LaFace's identity. Some music historians argue that his early rhythm programming influenced the producers who later built Atlanta's R&B empire. He didn't live to see it, but the music he helped invent became the sound of a generation. Their story also represents something bigger, a reminder of how easily the industry overlooks the very artists who paved the way. In every conversation about LaFace's legacy, there's a line that deserves to be spoken louder. Damian Dame were the first. They took the risk before the label had a name, before the success stories, before the brand became legendary. Without their leap of faith, the history of 90s R&B might have been written differently. They were the unseen architects, the blueprint duo, and for decades the world forgot. But time has a strange way of healing and revealing. In recent years, music historians and R&B enthusiasts have started revisiting the roots of the LaFace sound. When documentaries mention the rise of Atlanta as the epicenter of 90s soul, Damian Dame's name surfaces again, softly but unmistakably. Scholars call them the blueprint duo, artists who defined a sound before the world was ready to hear it. Their story has found a second life online. On YouTube, fan tributes and rare performance footage continue to attract comments. Some from people who were there in 1991, others from younger listeners discovering them for the first time. "I can't believe I just found this," they write. "This is what real music sounds like." It's not just nostalgia, it's recognition, a delayed but heartfelt acknowledgement that what they created mattered. Their rediscovery coincides with a larger cultural shift, a desire to honor those who contributed to the foundation of Black music, even if they didn't receive their flowers while alive. R&B podcasts, classic soul radio programs, and independent journalists have begun telling their story again, framing Damian Dame not as a tragedy, but as a testament to artistic integrity. And the appreciation is global. In the United Kingdom and Japan, two countries with deep love for American R&B, collectors and DJs have kept their records alive. Vinyl shops in Tokyo list their debut album among essential early 90s grooves. British radio hosts include Right Down to It and curated playlists celebrating lost soul duos of the decade. Even younger artists cite them as influences. Producers talk about discovering their music while researching early LaFace productions. Others mention how the male-female energy in songs, like Exclusivity, inspired their approach to collaboration. Then there are the quiet tributes, small-town open mics, where singers cover Right Down to It, church choirs that weave snippets of Dia's melodies into gospel arrangements, couples who choose Exclusivity as their wedding song decades later. Each one keeps the legacy alive in its own small, beautiful way. For the families and friends who knew them, these gestures mean everything. They speak of Damian's humility, Dia's warmth, and how their story reminds us that greatness isn't measured by charts, it's measured by heart. The story of Damian Dame doesn't end with loss, it ends with remembrance. Because somewhere in every song they left behind, there's a heartbeat that never stopped. When Exclusivity plays today, it still feels like summer 1991, the sound of hope spinning through the air, the rhythm of two voices that believed in something bigger than fame. You can almost see them on stage again. Dia, poised and radiant, her voice carrying through the crowd. Damian beside her, quiet but sure, keeping the groove steady beneath her melody. Two artists, perfectly balanced, completely alive. Time took them too soon, but time also gave them something rare, a kind of immortality that lives not in fame but in feeling. Every listener who rediscovers them adds another spark to that light. In the larger story of LaFace Records, their chapter is often small, almost overlooked. But without their faith, the label might never have become what it did. They were the foundation beneath the empire. Their journey, short and imperfect but deeply human, reminds us why we fall in love with music in the first place. Because behind every beat, there's someone chasing a dream. Behind every voice, there's a life, fragile and real. Damian and Dia weren't just artists, they were dreamers who turned struggle into sound and heartbreak into harmony. In their brief time under the spotlight, they gave us a truth that outlasts success, that art made with honesty never dies. Maybe that's what the music of the past asks of us. Not pity, but memory. To pause, to listen, to remember the names that history forgot. So tonight, if you find yourself scrolling through old playlists or sitting quietly with a favorite record, let their voices play one more time. Let the melody remind you that beauty doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. This twist shocked the world, and if you never want to miss stories like this, subscribe to Legends Underrated today. Do you think the industry ever gave them the respect they truly deserved? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because remembering isn't just nostalgia, it's gratitude. It's how we make sure the artists who built our world are never lost to silence again. Some stars never fade, they just wait for us to listen again.